Bueno, welcome everyone to our 9th annual Women's Hemispheric Network. I'm Maria Lourdes Teran, Vice President of the Council of the Americas here in Miami. Our Women's Hemispheric Network is one of our most important initiatives at the Council, started 12 years ago by our President and CEO, Susan Siegel, who's actually here with us today. Together, along with Michelle Bachelet, former President of Chile, and Margarita Zavala, former First Lady of Mexico. Today, WHN, as we call it, has become an essential platform with forums held throughout the Americas for both women and male allies to discuss and advocate opportunities for advancing equality. So it really has grown, and amazing that it's been very successful for over 12 years. Today, we have an amazing agenda. We begin with a CEO panel promoting female leadership, followed by a keynote conversation with the first female mayor of Miami-Dade, Daniela Levin Cava. We will also hear from a group of women leaders who are pioneers in traditionally male-dominated fields, and finish the day with a fireside chat with Reina Mejia, who's here with us from DC, and a workshop focused on executive presence and career success. Sorry. But more importantly, today, we really hope to ignite the power of a strong network. That's extremely important for us, to shatter glass ceilings and to pave pathways of opportunity for all of you who join us today. In a society where possibilities are endless, but obstacles persist, we are here to champion resilience, celebrate diversity, and cultivate a community of support, not only within the workplace, but also in everyday life. So we truly hope that today will be a beacon of inspiration and an opportunity to make new lifelong friends. So before we begin, a very special thank you to our host. I always say, when I grow up, I want to have an office like this. Yosbel, please allow me. So thank you to Greenberg Touring, to Yosbel, who has been such an amazing supporter. The support that Greenberg gives, not only South Florida, but Latin America, is really invaluable. So thank you so much. I also want to thank all of the speakers, that many of them have flown in from out of town, which is really quite exceptional. And also YPA, our Young Professional of the Americas, is our partner today. That's why we have so many young professionals. I do not fit into that category anymore, but someday maybe I will be able to go back. And I want to also thank our fantastic team in Miami, Cindy, Luciana, Lorraine, Andres, Natalia. You guys, as my daughter would say, you guys rock. I want to welcome Carol Bernhardt, who is a partner here at Greenberg. Thank you, and she's hosting us as well.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And welcome to the Women's Hemispheric Network. It is truly a pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of Greenberg Traurig. I'm actually delighted to say a few words on behalf of the firm and on behalf of myself. It's a privilege to be a partner. I'm first and foremost a mom of 4, a wife, and a partner at one of the largest law firms and most prestigious law firms in the world. And so, for me, it takes a little bit of it's a bit close to my heart to say a few words to such amazing women, powerful women, and just to say a few words. Well, first of all, welcome from behalf of Greenberg, but just to say a few words. Working hard is only half the battle. If you're women in this world, working hard is obviously very strong, but developing relationships, fostering strong ties with not only women, but people out there, men allies, and other people that really help you. This year is, I would have been practicing for 25 years. And I, throughout that career, have had a lot of men allies and a lot of women allies. And without getting too emotional, it is quite important. I have Yosbel Ibarra here, who's my managing partner and my partner in the corporate department. And he has been an absolute advocate, not only for me, but for many young women partners, young women associates within the firm, within Miami and worldwide, and advocating for all of us. And it is as important as of working hard as it is having men allies and other women allies to support you, to lift you, and to make something for yourselves. So I'm looking forward to hearing about a lot of people here. I'm honored and privileged, and have a great day throughout the day as all your various forums go on. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, today is a bit about inspiration, and that is inspiration because that's amazing. All I heard were 4 kids, and I admire that tremendously. So in your seats, you have an agenda. We are using a QR code again because we have a very young professional group here, and that will give you the background for all of our amazing, amazing speakers. And now I'd like to call our first group of speakers to come on. Our panelists to the stage, our President and CEO, Susan Siegel, Tito Arciniega of Microsoft, Idil Yasa of JTI, and Blanca Trevino of Softec.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be back in Miami and doing this. I also want to thank Greenberg and my dear friend Josbal and everyone here for really being an amazing partner for the Council of the Americas, not just in Miami, but throughout Latin America and every place that we work. I also want to thank Maria, who's led this. So she thanked everybody in her team, and I want to thank her. So thank you very much, Maria. Now, promoting diversity and women leadership is a topic which I care deeply about. We talk about women being in the workforce, but we don't talk enough about women being in leadership positions in the workforce. And we mix them up very often in terms of where diversity lands in any company. So advancing female representation in leadership positions is not only good for morale, it is great for business because every statistic shows that when you have more female leadership, businesses perform better. With the S&P projecting women to make up 50% of leadership by 2030, it's today around 29%. Today, we're going to discuss, frankly, how we get there, because we're not there yet, and we need a real path and a strategy to ensure that in 2030, we're actually at 50-50 in terms of leadership positions. And we're talking about leadership generally, but we have a great panel today because I also think we have to talk about CEOs, where the number is actually quite abysmal. So today we have an amazing panel. To my right is my dear friend Blanca Trevino. She's the president and CEO of Softec. Softec is unique and she is unique. And I'm not going to go through everybody's bios, but to find a woman that not only is the CEO and founder of a tech company, but one in Mexico is extraordinary. To her right is Tito Arciniega. Did I say that right? Close. Arciniega. Okay. Well, I learned to speak Italian before I learned to speak Spanish. So, I get a little bit wrong. He's the president of Microsoft for Latin America. And he really is such an amazing thinker and strategic thinker and has brought and will bring so much value to Latin America and to this discussion, because I know that this is a very important topic inside of Microsoft. And finally, to his right is Idil Yasa. She's the regional president for the Americas for JTI, also very unique, Japanese company. And not many women in Japan are in senior leadership roles. So what a unique panel. Thank you all for being here today. So I'd really like to start with you, Blanca. So you studied a major that was traditionally male generated and went on to be the founder of Softec and IT services. And over the years, we've seen an increase, but not fast enough, of women in technology jobs. What made you decide to do this, and what drove you to build this global company?
First of all, I have to apologize because I was late, and I have to take this opportunity publicly to say how I feel about the Uber that canceled me, and at the end I was, Maria is gonna kill me, Susan loves me, but she's also gonna kill me. So first of all, let me apologize because probably this started 5 minutes later because that's when I arrived. So my apologies. It was something that was unexpected. I planned to be here at 8:30, so it couldn't happen. So
It's these Uber drivers.
I know. I don't know what happened, but I'm not going to take any more time related to this. So one thing that I have to say when people ask me what make me decide to be here, to make me decided to get into tech in Mexico. And this is going to be, you're going to guess my age, but I have to say late 70s. It was completely unexpected. Most of my friends decided not to go to university, but sorry. For me, it was very related to challenges. I always like to think about challenges, something that was, again, probably the word will be, again, unexpected. And my dad was this kind of man, completely different to any other Mexican, that will normally push you to look for those kind of challenges. So he will not give me the chance to even consider that I was not going to get into something that was challenging enough all my life. So when I got into university at the very last moment, thank you so much, at the very last moment, well, first of all, I said computers. At that time, it was about computers, not tech. And computers sounded challenging enough. I said, wow, computers. Imagine you're too young. Maria mentioned about age, but I look at everywhere and I think none of you is my age. But at that time, computers, normally will take, and Tito can say, well, no, he's also too young. But normally, when you thought about computers, it was not laptops. It was not those kind of things. It was those IBMs that probably needed this kind of room. So imagine computers, it was like going to the moon and back and things like that. So I start in a certain way bragging with my dad that I was going to get into computers. If I didn't imagine what computers were, my dad, it was completely worse. But again, I got to university, I put my application to get into that. And at the very last moment, I said, no, this is just men. Because I asked people that were around me at that time, it was not online, you will be there. And they were all men. And I said, oh, I'm not so sure. I'm not going to be enjoying life. My friends will go normally and take trips and go just girls. So I changed and I said, marketing. So I went back home and my dad was having lunch with his brother. And again, I was there and he said, you cannot imagine. Nina, that's my nickname, is getting into computers. You don't know what computers is, but the way that he described it, again, it was going to the moon and back. So when my uncle left, I said, Dad, I have to tell you something. At the very last moment, I decided to go into marketing. Marketing. What are you saying? I said, and I used the worst word for him. I said, I was kind of afraid that this was not for me. Afraid. I can live with anything. Probably having a daughter that is not beautiful, is not smart, but I don't want no one that is a coward. So you go back and get into computers. So being very honest, it was a man who convinced me to get into this. No, it is true. He didn't give me any chance. Imagine your dad, you're 18, he'll probably cancel me any kind of allowance that I might have. So it was my dad. It was my dad. I really, and you know, I wouldn't think about that. Normally dads, at least what I hear from many women still today, is that they don't get that kind of support. But I did it. And I'm so glad that I used that very bad word. I don't like being afraid. And he certainly didn't want to have a daughter. He said, I could leave. My daughter is ugly. My daughter is probably not as smart, but afraid, a coward, that's not for me. So that's what it really, and that's driven all my life. Tito, and I'm so glad that we have a man in the panel.
Absolutely.
Right,
Because he's
gonna
definitely
say
not afraid.
how it feels to work with women, and if you have daughters, also you have to challenge your daughters.
So going to you, Tito, they're very important. How do you think about inclusion and gender diversity, both in terms within Microsoft, but Blanca opened up for your daughters as well?
Yeah, actually, my wife is a CHRO for Genesis, so a company. So she has had a wonderful career as well, and always in parallel. But to be fair, she was doing two things, right? So she has done a lot more than I have done and has achieved probably a better position in a global company. And my daughter, she's 28 now, so I'm not so young. And well, she started working at Microsoft, and she resigned, and now she's in NYU. But it's an interesting, and I have, for me personally, I have seen the evolution. Let me give you an example. I think that there's a position of privilege that you don't know you have. And you know what? I don't think it's conscious. You just need to be aware that exists. Because when I start thinking about, and I have these open dialogues, and we have employee resource groups at Microsoft, and diversity and inclusion is a very strong thing as a culture for us. But when I start thinking and reflecting all these conversations that I have now, and I think 25 years ago, I look at me and say, what an idiot. Because you will say, no, you know what? You're going to hire the best person. Gender is not relevant. Whoever is the best for the job, but truly there are so many biases behind the decision, because it's not you give a test that is 100% and then whoever has the best test passes. There is so many things going into those decisions that I believe that just thinking that the first person has way too many biases. So I think that the first thing that needs to happen, and we're working a lot on that, is understand that you learn every single day. You will never be an expert on this, but you need to be willing to learn and need to be willing to understand that there are biases for which the whole society have made you done this. Now, once you understand that, then you need to put significantly more effort. And that's the truth, significantly more effort to listen and understand exactly the other person. In this case, the woman candidate, the woman, how you promote them, how do you ask questions? You need to be a little bit more open into getting to know and understand the things, as opposed to let the person just talk all the time and say, hey, I got it. Or the concept of a leadership is pretty much based on a male personality. No, you're straightforward, you're tough. That's not the real leadership. But again, you have to learn, and I think that constant learning is what brings you to different levels. And I have seen it now. I can see it. You ask my daughter. I challenge my daughter every single day, right? And I said, okay, I know, I mean, you really need to take more risks. You don't have to be 300% prepared. Believe me, you don't. You need to make sure that you are asking for what you want. You are more prepared than what you think. And I will never forget, before Microsoft, I was at IBM for a long time. And in one of these meetings, Ginny Rometty, who was the CEO, at that time was not, but she was later the CEO of IBM. She was telling a story. When she was going to be, when the CEO called her to promote her to be the executive vice president, or senior vice president was the name at IBM, to run the services business, she said that she needed to think about it. So she went back to her house and talked to her husband and say, look, this is what they offer me, but I don't think I'm ready, this. And the husband said, what do you think a man will say? So the next day she went and took the job and then became the CEO. So I think that there is that portion, but it will be unfair to ask the woman to do all the work, change the way you behave, the whole thing, and go this so that I think that there needs to be also a change, and this is what allies are so important, and the willingness to have an open mind and learn and understand, because honestly, doesn't matter what I do or how much I try, every single time that I have an open dialogue with women at Microsoft, oof, I'm learning something different and open, and you just need to be willing to that, to learn and learn and understand that you have biases, and as a man, you're coming from a position of privilege. If you don't understand that, this is not going to work.
Your story about Ginny Brometti is so familiar, I'm sure, to so many young women in this room and around. I mean, you know, even my daughter, she was, you know, applying for a job, and she said, "Well, you know, I'm not sure I'm ready." And I said, "Well, tell me, who else is applying?" And all these guys were applying to a private equity fund. And are they going in and saying, "I'm not sure I did all these things"? No. Well, then just go in and say you did all these things and worry about how you do it afterwards. So, Idil, you are a sponsor and very active member at Together, which is JTI's employee resource group for fostering women empowerment and gender equality. What initiatives are empowering women for career advancement, and what promoted you and empowered you to get where you are today?
Okay, let me start with the second point then. Because I was thinking when I first started, I didn't have in my mind an exact destination that I will get to XCOM one day. You just start, you're hungry and you're eager to learn, you would like to grow. And I think it's mostly about the qualities that you bring along and you cultivate along your path. It's loving what you do, showing up in a way that is helping and elevating your team, yourself. And I think it's all about having a grit, which is basically being passionate about achieving things collectively together and through with people. And it's the perseverance, because there will be tough times. You all know, I'm sure you all experience, and we will, not the first time, not the last time, there will be difficult patches, difficult times. But to be able to demonstrate resilience against adversity and to keep the courage, to keep the strong belief that days ahead will definitely be better than the days before, to keep that optimism. I think these are the things that carry one along the way. That would be I have a very rewarding journey in our company, which I'm very grateful for. I had the opportunity to work with some exceptional leaders, work with them, learn from them. I also had the opportunity to learn what not to do. That's also part of the experience, as you all know, in your developing your leadership style. But that's how the journey evolves, and that's how it becomes so fulfilling. In our company, we have, like all my colleagues and all of you, I'm sure we have several levels of efforts. But I think when it comes to women empowerment, it's one of those topics like global issues, like climate change. Everyone is for it, but when it comes to the action, we see different levels of engagement. And I'm very optimistic about the progress we're making in our company, in Japan Tobacco International. We had, of course, many pockets of initiatives, but since 6 years, we have a dedicated function, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have efforts to secure equal pay, equal opportunities, but we're also very adamant about developing the equity, because it's really important to understand the difference. As not everyone starts from the same place, and the same answer, same policy is not enough, and actually not even right all the time for all our women. So lots of initiatives to cultivate and help women to elevate in the organization and to grow, to have the fulfilling experience. It's not only about the title, but to have the journey in a fulfilling way. And we have many other opportunities, sponsorships, mentorship that we all have. But this Together movement that we have, this ERG, is a fully employee-led, initiated by employees and led by employees community. Basically, this is for driving further inclusive environment, further equity. We have certain pillars where we do community, initiate, and allyship. At the end of the day, initiate is more about bringing new community members. We have around 2,000 members all around the world right now. And we have a program called JACA, Just a Call Away. Some volunteering woman that has some experience with mentoring, coaching. They just make themselves available and have some slots. And then for 30 minutes, it's about any moment that you're in a difficult situation that you'd like someone to turn to discuss, to exchange, or a new opportunity, or a safe space to exchange. This is available. This is all by volunteering of our women. And I think what is also have been very, very impactful is this allyship, where the core program is MAP, Men Advocating for Progress, where we really unpack, have some workshops, focus groups, that we talk about how our male colleagues, our men, can actually help. Because more often than not, they say, I'd like to, but I'm not sure where to start from. I'm not sure if I'm going to say something wrong, or if I intimidate, or I don't know how to help, but I want to. So this is where we unpack a little bit, give the stories. And what has made big progress, I'd like to just build on what you said, Tito. It's about listening. It's about connecting. It's about listening. It's about paying attention. Because when we hear the profound stories, actually what is challenging, what's in their minds, in their hearts, then the calling how to help them comes to you, really. Because sometimes we say, I don't know how to. Well, just listen, connect, genuinely open mind, listen. Then it will come to you, whether you stand up for it or you cheer on something. So this is how it evolved in our company.
So I want to follow on with that and ask you a second question, which is, you've lived in a lot of different countries, working for JTI. Has the culture been different in each of the countries?
I would say the company culture, I didn't observe, and I'm not observing a big difference, to be honest, because it's all stands on who we are. We call it our way. It's really what connects us. But I do observe differences locally, how it comes to life, how people express it themselves. And that's actually beauty and diversity. For instance, when engaging, communicating in one geography, it's more spontaneous, fluent, and more fun-related, and it's much more received, and you see much more, let's say, higher levels of engagement. In another geography, you understand that when you listen, when you respect, you understand that they would prefer maybe a bit more structured, to know what to expect, what's expected of them, and to see these differences and then have your leadership style communication in a more versatile experiences. That's where I see it's colored locally, how it comes to life.
Got it. So Tito, going to you, what are the ways that Microsoft supports the participation of women and some of the factors that companies should think about when they want more gender inclusion or just generally more inclusiveness?
Yeah, I think inclusiveness is, for me, the right word. Because, look, we have always talked about diversity without the I. And I think the I makes a big difference, because I means that you really are going to listen with a purpose to understand, not just going to chase a metric. And this understanding is what I believe it makes the difference. So inclusion is that, is asking questions and make sure that everybody's participating, that you're here from everybody in every single meeting. So I think that the role modeling is something that is extremely important on inclusion. And this will help not only women, but many other different communities, whether it's Black, Indigenous, or LGBTQ. I mean, it's just everybody has a story behind it. And part of what we're trying to do is how can you be yourself? And you don't have to have two different approaches of one is your working life and the other one is your personal life, which has to be, I mean, I don't have two. But I can imagine having two will be exhausting if one is exhausting for me. So part of that, the inclusion side is extremely, extremely important. So we have a lot of these, what we call open dialogues. On top of the ERGs, and women at Microsoft is probably one of the largest ERG and has all the support in the world, but there is intentionality. This intentionality, and this is going to happen. I mean, we're at the probably average because we are 33% representation of women. We went up from what, 29, so that's a little bit, and now we're
in management roles.
29 in management roles now, up from 24 or something like that. I mean, so it's going up, and I think it's the intention. And is this understanding and then being given the chance, right? A person. So is what are you looking for in an interview when you are hiring a manager? As I said before, I think those things matter. Asking the right questions, giving the chance so that the person can open more, and having the conversations. And those things that I say are subtle, but it needs to start with role modeling, then coaching and caring. Those things are a constant, and this is part of what we have incorporated as part of the role of a manager. So those three things, right? Role model, coaching, and care. And care is not insignificant. You really need to be passionate about it, otherwise it's not going to happen. So yes, we are moving things that were simple, right? At a point in time to say you need to hire, make sure that there is a woman on the slate. Well, initially there was only a woman on the slate on a paper, but there was not on the interview. Now, for that metric to count, it has to be interviewed. Right? So that means that the conversation happened and you have that open dialogue. So, I mean, there are many efforts that are going on. And of course, this ERG is extremely important because the community is big. It also brings a ton of support for especially the early in career and young women that are starting to that. So to learn, get experiences, ask questions in a very safe environment. And I mean, I don't know, my colleagues at Microsoft will tell you, but I mean, in Latin America, we're trying to clearly create a psychologically safety environment where trust is given so that you can actually say what you want to say and everything is going to be heard, because the premise is that everything that you are saying has good intent. It's good intent. So now if you don't agree with that and the whole thing, if you come with good intent, you try to understand the person. So you're not trying to listen to reply, but listen to understand the other point of view. So, and again, this comes with a lot of role modeling, conversations, opening spaces, and making sure that this is not only one person, but you have many people that, because this is the thing that is interesting. I would have guessed initially that if a woman is a manager, she will hire a lot more women. No, that's not the case. So even in those spaces, there is, and when you ask the questions why, is interesting, because I think that person is trying to demonstrate that she's not biased, which it defeats the purpose. You cannot be biased when you are less than 50% of the population. When you're 50%, 50-50, we'll have another conversation. But I mean, from 33 to 50, that's still a lot. And in our industry in particular, which is technology, is hard. So we're also doing a lot of skilling. How do you bring more young women? How do you take them into this world? Your dad got you into this. Good for him, because look what you have done. But I mean, we need to make sure that this is a little bit more massive, because at the end of the day, honestly, what is happening in the world, technology is going to be a part of any business no matter what. So it is important that science and technology comes into. So we're trying to do also those sides. I mean, it's a journey, but I can not stress enough intentionality. Just having the logo and talking the words, but don't having metrics and don't measure, don't role model, coach, it will not happen. It will take way too long. So.
Thank you. You led the way for my question to Blanca. So there is a huge skill gap in technology overall in Mexico, but particularly for women. And how do you change that? And what are you doing to change that? And Soft Tech doing?
Yeah, one thing that is important, and it's related to what you said, today, everything is about talent. I think it's the best moment for anyone, no matter if it's related to women. When you said about inclusion, years ago, you have to fight in a certain way how you could get there. But today, more and more, and yes, in the tech industry, probably more than in any other, we need that talent, and you should not limit the company to just have access to men. Or today, we need everyone that has that talent. There's a huge gap today, and there is and as opposed to many, many years, and I'm sure we'll agree to this, if you want to go and look for that talent, it's difficult to find. So you want to open those spaces much more. I think it's the best moment for women. Even though it was not part of the question, I would like to build on those things that we just discussed. I truly believe that it's that companies, yes, they have to have policies and all the things that were described, Tito, in companies like Microsoft or many others, that you need in order to empower people, to bring people, to have that intentionality or that inclusion. But I truly believe that it's more related to how we feel. You describe your daughter, and sometimes it's the woman who limits their way into the company. Sometimes it's related to, do I deserve this? Am I ready for this? So it's not about the company opening those spaces, but it's also yourself to give yourself that opportunity. It's not for the company to offer the opportunity, but it's yourself to do that. Because we see when you ask those kind of questions about how the percentage of women that you have in the company is obviously larger in the low part, but in leaderships, you don't find as many. For me, it's horrible to say that my direct reports, I have 3 out of 12. That is not something that should happen. I am a woman. The CEO is a woman. So no one could question how much I support them. But every time that I invite someone probably to get into a higher level, not just my direct reports, but someone else, they will question how this is going to be perceived, not in the company, but in society, how the family is going to support them, and they said they kind of feel guilty sometimes, not just ready, not if they are professionally ready, not if they have the skills, but if they could really handle their family and also or your professional life. So you have to work with them really. When we think about role models, when you think about opening conversation, it's how you can work with them, showing that this is something that they should not feel guilty about. But because if you feel guilty in a certain way, your kids will grow feeling victims of you. You're guilty, so you're making them suffer. So first of all, you have to say, I can handle this. I deserve, and this is not that I'm not going to pay attention to my family. This is that we can do that. So I can talk many things about Softtech and the talent and many other companies, but more and more in different panels, in different spaces, places, when I talk to different people in different companies, today they do have spaces, policies that kind of, they understand how important it is to bring the talent. So it is frustrating that you talk to people, please, you can have this, you can handle this position. No, I'm not so sure. Today with technology, it's also impressive, all the things, the way that they can facilitate taking that role. Years ago, and some of us might remember this, that it was so difficult when I travel every week, probably 20 years ago, not every week, but every other week. And I remember all the things that I had to do in order to leave my daughters and everything ready. So everything will be covered, even though I would leave just for 3 days. Today, you have FaceTime, so you can talk to them. You have Uber, they can call and bring. You have Instacart. I try to think, like how you have WhatsApp, so you can, in a certain way, talk to your friend. Can you pick up my daughters? Everything today, I wouldn't say easy, but not as difficult as it was in the past. But what it is, it hasn't changed from my perspective. And we have offices in India and in China and Spain and South America. I see those women questioning themselves if they can handle it. In many cases, if they have the skills, if they are ready. But many others, it's, can I do this? And I will question them and say, you are taking the wrong decision. When you decline to take that position, you are in a certain way showing other women that they will not be able to. So it is again, today is about talent. It's a bright moment for us. No, we need that talent. That's great. Not in the past, certainly in many industries. Tech is one of them. But the other one is we have to work with women in saying, we can do this. We don't have to feel guilty. We are not just ready professionally, but we are ready to handle both our lives, all right?
Showing my age, I remember the AT&T calling credit card so that I could talk to my kids on the phone when I was traveling, and the written agenda that you would leave, right?
And public phones, remember at
And
the airport?
public phones.
And you have to call him, how can I take it home of them? Or I remember the first time that I told my daughter with the mobile, you just have to push this button and I'm gonna answer, no
Absolutely.
matter where I am. It is
These
completely
mobile
different.
phones that were
Remember? It was horrible.
So I'm going to ask you one more question because I think it's really important. There's going to be a woman president in Mexico. She believes she can do it. Is that going to change the attitude?
So imagine a woman president, not even in the US, in Mexico. Today, there's not a chance. 2 women, right? So it is going to be a woman. And
Math would tell us that.
absolutely right. It's so easy.
We don't
But
need AI.
imagine the kind of support for them to be there, to aspire to be there, how they feel that they could handle a country as Mexico with the challenges that we have in Mexico. It will absolutely change because people, again, every time that a woman declines to take a position, all the women, it's not just a role model that they look at the one that decided to do it. They also look at the one that say, no, we're not ready. And Tito mentioned this, but it's true. In many cases, women don't support other women. Years ago, I remember probably the ones that make me things more difficult were the mothers of the friends of my daughters. They would look at me and, no, you can't go to that house. The mother is not there. Don't go there. And probably it's because they felt, I don't know, envy or whatever, that they didn't do it. So we're going to have a president, no question about that. I think, I kind of think the one that could be better, you always have that, right? But I think both will be able, at least gender is not going to be the problem. That's the other thing. You have to think that whatever challenge, you should not feel that there's a bias, that there's a difficulty because you're a woman. You have to look at you and say, I have the talent, I have the power, everything. So if something doesn't work in Mexico in the next years, I'll not say it was related to gender. Might be related to other things, but not gender. Women were better, Tito, in many things. We are multitask. We can do multitasking. Men sometimes are not good at that. We don't have the time, but I can share with you one thing that women face, but later. Well, in a minute. When you're doing in the morning, Tito, probably you're different, but in the morning, you wake up early because you have to prepare the lunch boxes, breakfast, everything. You, in a certain way, look at the emails that you have to answer. You're doing so many things. And then your husband comes and you're in the phone, probably talking to anyone, preparing everything. Your husband comes in the kitchen and you just ask him, how do you want your eggs? Scrambled? Greasy? How do you? And he's on the phone also. Wait, bad at you and says, how come you can ask me that question? I'm busy. Oh no, here I am, just so free. I'm doing your eggs, I'm doing the lunch boxes. I don't know. Husbands, men are not multitask.
So wait a second, Tito, do you make the eggs in the morning?
And it was just about the question they said, I was gonna do the eggs. It just tell me, scramble or an omelet? Don't ask me that, I'm at the phone. No, I'm here just waiting for you. No, my phone, my emails, lunch boxes. So multitask, women are multitask.
Yeah.
Many men are, but
No. So this is for me something that I analyze because I even see my wife and I, we studied industrial engineering university. We tied the second place. We tied. Yeah. So the competition between us has always been
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when the dean gave us the award, say, now you can get married.
Did he
So,
conduct the ceremony?
huh?
Did he conduct the ceremony?
Yeah, the ceremony. So anyhow, it happens 3-4 years after that, but it was interesting. And then me getting into tech, and she wanted to do industrial engineering, how hard it was for her. And then she ended up into tech. And then they start calling her for the other thing, and she said, "No, tech is better," and she moved on. But it was interesting. But to your point, I think I asked my wife, right? So why are you more demanding with my daughter than with my son? Why is you're asking help to Tanya, which is my daughter? She does, I mean, when she stays with me and Eva is traveling, I have a schedule. Everything is prepared, and she's the food and this and the whole thing and whatever. My son doesn't even know what to happen. He just wakes up and somebody will give him something. Huh? So I said, this is the same kid and you raised them both, right? We raised them both, but honestly, you did more. Significantly more, I have to say that. So, and that's what I mean by the bias and the privilege. It goes beyond the office and the labor market. It's the whole society that has created these differences. So if you don't understand that as a man, it's a very hard thing to know because you think you're being fair. Right? I'm sure your husband that was talking said, I'm working. Right? Yeah. So I'm working. So yeah. So which is zero understanding that the other person is working and also doing things for you and for your kids and everything, right? So zero empathy. Why? Because it's given to you for granted, which is what I'm telling with my son, right? So this is.
So you get this and you're super supportive. Is that true within Microsoft as a whole? Is it the same kind of, is this a culture or is this personal?
Look, nothing as a whole is always going to be, but I think that the care part of every person, because the more you listen, here's the thing, I do believe people have good heart. We hire people at Microsoft that really want to do things that are beyond just revenue. And I think that culture permeates. So I think it's good people that have their heart in the right place. So now what you need to do with these people is expose them to the reality. Because if you never are exposed to these conversations and looking at from outside and hear to that, I mean, you will talk to your husband and say, what are you thinking? Huh? Have you seen this from outside? Because the person in that moment doesn't even acknowledge that that's happening. So here's the thing, right? So how are we putting managers, right, and male employees more into these open dialogues so that they understand those perspectives? I think is what's going to change, because once you understand, it clicks, right? Because there's no bad intention. Nobody has woke up saying, you know what, I'm going to make women miserable. That's not the main intention. But I think this is where the understanding and listening is what educates you. And now you see it with a very different perspective, because common sense is common sense, right? And that story, and I'm sure it has happened to me as well, right? Oh, I'm doing so, and you're just not appreciative enough of everything that the other person is doing for you, which is significantly more. But I just wanted to go back that needs to be understood, because the society creates that difference from the get-go.
So what is the biggest challenge in your company, do you think? And as the company, you've had an amazing career, you've lived overseas, you've run many different operations. Is that broadly true in your company for women?
I would say the opportunities do exist, but to build on Blanca's point, this hesitation, not having the courage, or seeing yourself less. Can I do it? Maybe I should not put my hand up, or can I really uproot my family and go to another geography and start from the very beginning? It's a new job, and also I have other responsibilities. I think that's important to address, to make aware our women that there is support. Don't hesitate to ask for support. you will be amazed how much help, support within the company or outside the company, but just put your hand up, ask for support, and don't hold back. I totally agree with that, because we're holding back ourselves in many cases. I'm talking about connect. When I have the opportunity to connect with many, many women, and I really do hear about, I'm not sure, maybe I should not even aspire to become at the leadership position. It's tough. I'm happy with my family. It's okay, but it's possible. So why are you hesitating? How do we unpack that? How do we genuinely address, and just not just the words, but by examples and helping them? That's where the equity comes, being intentional about the equity, providing the specific support for each and every need that we are facing. Basically, the teams that are approaching, emerging here is, at the end of the day, being intentional, connecting. I will not stop saying that, no matter what, to listen, to understand, and to elevate, to encourage, to put your hand up and take the risk. There's no other way. Nobody's going to do that for you. You have to put your hand up and trust that there will be support. There will be support in your team, in your community, in your family. Go for it. And it's important that you find that courage to move, take the next step. That's important to wrap up in that sense.
So
And I resonate very much with many of the anecdotes that you have said. We can build on those anecdotes. That's true. But it's also, I think, to have the empathy to men as well. I mean, that's how they've been brought up with the society and everything. So how do we bring them from allies to active advocates? I'm with you. Thank you for standing with the change. But okay, what do you do about it? In day-to-day, not in grandiose events or get-togethers and everything, but in day-to-day. How do we bring them to become active advocates?
Something, I want to be fair. Like you said, even my husband not understanding or not wanting to say scramble or not scramble, he really didn't, I mean, I cannot complain about that. He didn't feel bad. He was not able to handle both things, the call and that kind of decision. So I understand that for many men. I never questioned that. I just understood. And because he will support me in every other way. Like I said, I used to travel every week. So I want to be fair. He was not necessarily not having that empathy. It was just something that he was not prepared. I mean, not ask me two things at the same time. Being very honest, like you said, people are well-intentioned. My husband was. It was just something that he didn't have that skill. It was just two things, not able to do it.
So
Tito, you were going to make a
what
comment.
I want to make is, look, I always pivot to the part that what men have to do. Because the moment that I said, and it's probably true, everybody, this is what I'm hearing, right? So, and you hear it also in open dialogues, that I don't feel ready, I don't feel prepared, I think it's too much workload, can I handle this, will I be good, will I be mediocre if I do these two things? So there is a sense of I'm on a failing performance at both sides of the equation that is hard. Now, if I start talking about that, then I'm going to put everything on the woman, which is a concern for me, right? That, okay, so you need to talk different, you need to do this, you need to be ready, you need to make sure. So I don't think we can, right? So it needs to be pivoted significantly higher on the responsibility of the men to understand that they are the ones that have to bring these things and support. And as you said, I do agree that, I mean, I have seen my wife just dealing with all the things that we have to do, and we have moved so many times, so many places. And now technology makes it so much easier for her. Even now, we just moved. I just sold a house and we moved. I didn't do anything.
Can I ask you a question on this? Because I think this is a really important question. How do you coordinate two really large careers moving around all the time? I think that's a really big challenge for a lot of young professionals, men and women, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we were lucky because she joined IBM after 4 years. I was already there, and then IBM was extremely supportive of not breaking this. So when it was, in my case, I was the one assigned or moved, she will also get a position. So it was very simple to get a position. But regardless of that, she needed to change jobs, and she was an executive at IBM too. Then I resigned. And that's where the thing happened, because now she was at IBM and I was at Microsoft. She needed to resign because then IBM started to make things hard. And that's where I think, but it was my kids now were 15 or something. So it was easier, but this is where I think, I don't know if she will say the same thing, but I think that I was more supportive, because she got offered a very good position at California in HP. And we were living in Seattle with my kids. And I said, you have to take it. I said, what do you mean? You have to take it. Wow. And she went, and we had an apartment in Palo Alto, and she started on this commuting. And I said, you have to do it. The kids are good, that nothing is going to happen. And out of that, then she became a CHRO. But those are the things that need to happen, because initially it was, how can I'm going to leave my house? And I will say that there was a selfish part of me too. Because honestly, I think that if we have retired at the end, it would have been, I didn't get to my potential professionally because I gave up for you and the kids. And I didn't want that to happen. So she's fully developed professional. I would say she's more successful than I am for sure. And is happy, right? But at this stage is good. At the beginning, I think it would have been hard if somebody have to leave a job or then find another job. So there are things, but I'm seeing today that happening more often than not. And I'm seeing it more gender neutral than it was before, right? So just take it. The other guy says, fine, you make more money. It's better for both of us, and go, and I'll have to do something else. At my time was harder. But now, I mean, look, I talked to my son, and he's extremely more open and more respectful and more aware of those things that I was at his age, for sure. So I do have faith that this is going to change dramatically. But in the workforce right now, I think the intentionality, the caring, and the role model is not enough. And there is a ton for management, and this is men and women, to make sure that they do that with an effort. It's not okay to leave everything for the woman to say, I have to change the way I'm going to speak. I have to say things that I don't feel comfortable saying. So I think it has to be pivoted more from the management side to bring the best out of the woman and support them to make this transition from this 33% to 50%.
Need more role models like you, because when we think about role models, we think woman and other women looking at them. But I'm so convinced that it's more related to family. Your son is going to be incredible. You're the best role model that he could have. Believe me, it is important. No, because you have shown that it is possible. You have shown that how important it is for you that your wife is also successful. You convinced your wife that she could do it. And your daughter saw that. Your son is looking at you. So whenever we think about role models, we have to talk about men supporting. We should have more Titos in the panel.
Well, you know what? I think we should have Tito and his wife on a panel. I think that would be a cool thing.
But look at him. Look at him, because many times we are women talking to other women. No, we have to see what is he thinking.
Absolutely.
That's why I always give credit to my dad, but he didn't support my mom. But looking at this way, I have no doubt how your son is going to do, because he has looked at you and your daughters have seen your wife. Those are the role models, not necessarily just in the company, but in your family.
So I'm going to get murdered. You get the last word here.
No, I'm saying absolutely. That's
He's a great role model.
Yeah, great role model. So I think all three of you are amazing role models. And I want to thank you for joining us. I'm going to get murdered by my team if we don't end. So we're a little over time, but not much. So I want to thank each of you. Tito, my dear friend Blanca, thank you for joining us today. This has been beyond informative, really fun. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What an inspiring